Thank you for this insightful discussion. And indeed, it frames nicely the discussions in the following panels where we can go much more into detail. It's also good that there were already 2 questions from the audience, so you are warming up. We will have also questions at the end of each panel. This was our guidance to the moderators also, to give you the opportunity to ask and for them the opportunity to explain. But now let us move to the first panel, making the digital euro a reality. And I will call the moderator and the panelists on the stage one by one. This panel will be moderated by Hassan. He is the Vice Chair of the European Council Working Party working on digital euro regulation. Please join us on stage. You can take a seat there, indeed. And as panelists, I would like to first invite on stage from the European Central Bank, the Program Director of the Digital Euro project, Evelien Witlox. Second, from Ministry of Finance, the Estonian Chief Negotiator on Digital Euro at the European Council, Kadri. Third, from Lietuvos Bankas, Board Member Marius Skuodis. Fourth, a member of the European Parliament and Vice President of the Greens EFA Group, Virginijus Sinkevičius. And as last panelist from Latvia's Banka, the Counsellor at the Permanent Representation of Latvia to the European Union, Miķelis Zondaks.
So thank you, Rainer, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first panel of the day. My name is Hassan. I'll be moderating this panel, and currently I'm the Vice Chair of the Council Working Party on the Digital Euro regulation under the Danish presidency. So maybe just to set the stage a bit here. So the aim of this panel is to give you all a shared understanding of the technical, but also the legislative process and progress so far, but also the outstanding issues and what's ahead of us. So the digital euro has been discussed for several years now, but I believe that we are currently at a very important stage where co-legislators are working intensively on the regulation. The ECB is making advancements in the preparations, and we're also seeing market participants being involved in the digital euro rulebook and other things. So this is really to try to facilitate a broader discussion, and what we will try to do today is to see what have we achieved of progress so far, where do technical and legislative processes meet, but also which and whether market participants should start preparing. I think I will stop here, and maybe we could have a brief round of introductions, if that's okay with you. And Evelien, would you like to briefly introduce yourself, and then we can take a round?
Yes, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Evelien Witlox. I'm the Program Director for the Digital Euro. I joined the ECB specifically for this project. Before that, I've been in the private sector working on payments most of my life.
Good morning to everyone. My name is Kadri, and I have been working on Digital Euro project from the beginning, but from the member state perspective, and participating from the beginning in the negotiations of the Council.
Hi, Marius, Skuodis, board member of the Bank of Lithuania. Only 6 months in my position, but I returned to the central bank after 7 years in government. So.
Good morning. My name is Virginijus Sinkevičius. I'm a member of the European Parliament, Vice President of Greens EFA Group, but also a member of the Econ Committee.
Good morning, Miķelis, Zondaks, Counsellor at Latvijas Banka. I started my involvement back in Riga, nationally wise. Now, for the past year, I'm in Brussels, mostly in the Council working parties, but not only.
Great. So I think we have both the Council, the European Parliament, ECB, national central banks, but also people close to the national stakeholders as well represented. And so we can, I think, get a very broad perspective of different opinions here. So maybe let's try to discuss where we are now. Where are we today? And Evelien, I think maybe perhaps you could kick this off. And since you are very close to the technical preparations, would you be able maybe to give us an overview of the key milestones that you have achieved, but also how they feed into the legislative process as well?
Thank you very much. So we have been, as the Eurosystem, on a journey for quite a while. We did some work on the digital euro, but the real work started when we did the investigation phase, which ended in 2023. And in this phase, we mainly focused on the design of the digital euro. So we started with an idea and a concept and really worked out in all the details on the technical side, on the more compensation model side. In that time frame, also the Commission worked on their draft legislation. So in June 2023, the Commission published their draft legislation, and we, in October of that year, we moved to the preparation phase. So that is the phase we're still in, and we focused, as the name says, on further preparations. We had a couple of important milestones. First of all, to finalize sourcing, so for the parts that the Eurosystem would need to provide, to find solutions, both internal Eurosystem as externally. So we are closing the procedures there, and we are able to publish soon. Pierre already mentioned the fact that we really wanted this to be European. We worked on the rule book, which is very important because it really details out what both the Eurosystem but also merchants and PSPs need to build once the digital euro would be launched. This is currently under consultation with the Rulebook Development Group, which is a group not only with a central bank, but actually more importantly, it's with representatives from and experts from merchants, consumer organizations, but also payment service providers. So we really do this with the market. And then we have done further experimentation, both on user research, but also innovation will be later on something more in the panel. And then on the back of that, we have also supporting the legislative process, which further allowed us or forced us to deep dive on certain design principles and decisions, and resilience has been one of the topics we worked on. So that's where we are, and on the legislative side, I'm quite sure that the others can tell more.
So I think it sounds like there's a lot of different things going on and many different tracks. And I think, as you also just mentioned, there's also the legislative track. And Kadri, you are part of that track in the Council. And there's also a parallel track in the European Parliament. But maybe, Kadri, could you maybe start off by giving us a sense of where are we in terms of the negotiations in the Council today?
Okay, thank you very much. So I will be starting by a short overview of where we stand, where the EU Council stands in the negotiations of the digital euro legal framework. First, I want to mention that for more than 2 years, we have been holding discussions under 5 presidencies already, from Spain to Denmark currently. With these negotiations, we have reached the point where during the ECOFIN, so the Ministers of Finance, discussion in July this year, ministers broadly supported the Danish presidency's ambition of finding a council agreement on the digital euro legal framework by the end of 2025, so that we can also start the negotiations with the European Parliament. And the ministers also called for work to be taken forward at both the political and technical levels to achieve that goal for agreement. And after that discussion, the euro area ministers agreed on the Eurogroup's political guidance on the institutional framework for setting the ceiling for the holding limits, as discussed already during the fireside chat. And this has been one of the controversial issues from the political perspective, blocking other questions from moving forward in the Council. And as stated by the Eurogroup President, this agreement on the process of setting a holding limit and establishing a governance framework for the issuance of the digital euro, so that also the member states can participate somehow in the decision of issuance, signals collective determination to advance the digital euro project. So the political support from the ministers was clearly there. Other main areas in which progress should be made under the Danish presidency to reach our goal in the Council include digital user privacy, a fair compensation model, and the distribution of the digital euro. So these are the most common, most prominent open issues. And in addition, we still need some fine-tuning of principles for the digital euro to improve the payments resilience and preparedness, a discussion that Estonia, together with other Baltic states and Finland, initiated at the beginning of the Polish presidency, at the beginning of this year. To achieve the mentioned goal, among other elements, we need to ensure that offline payments can be made using the digital euro from the first issuance, and preparedness by design of digital euro, also mentioned already today. And actually, let me stop here for this part of discussion.
Thank you, Kadri. So we've seen progress, but we also see still some outstanding issues on the table from the Council side. And maybe Virginijus, do you see alignment with the Council here, or do you still have diverging views on some of these topics? So where, from a Parliament point of view, where are we?
Yes, thank you very much for your question. In general, of course, Parliament is very positive, and those positions, they are quite well aligned. Clearly, with the current circumstances, instrument like digital euro is, of course, extremely needed in Europe to ensure that we have an instrument which works online, offline, and in times of disruptions, which we see an increasing number. I think Parliament position mainly focuses, first of all, of course, on democratic oversight. So not only ECB would be involved, but Parliament's role as well. Privacy is extremely important. I think the rule book which was published also covers a lot of actually Parliament concerns. Then interoperability and ensuring that it's well distributed through the Eurozone. Inclusion of all, it's extremely important for the Parliament. And then, of course, the financial stability, ensuring that there is no significant shift which might cause instability from the commercial banks then to digital euro. But in general, European Parliament is extremely optimistic and, of course, looking forward to beginning of the negotiations and hopefully swift finalization.
Thank you. Okay, that's very interesting. It also shows how co-legislators are moving in parallel here. And maybe moving more into the national stakeholders. Both you, Miķelis, and Marius, you, I believe, are closer to the national stakeholders and the views coming from these. So maybe a question to both of you here would be that what are the main expectations, but also the main concerns that you hear from national stakeholders at home at the current point in time, and maybe for you, Miķelis, not at home, but maybe from Brussels, also what you are hearing?
I would say that those concerns are quite similar. For the private persons, it's mostly privacy, but as Commissioner Valdis Dombrovskis said, that it's already designed in the proposal. So it's more a question about how we explain this to the society. But the other two concerns are mostly with the market participants. One is costs. Then again, we can explain something by the principles that how we are building the digital euro, that we'll try to utilize what we can from the existing solutions. But the other part is division of responsibilities. And there it's not about the communication, it's about having finished regulation and then a rule book, and then you can only explain how it will be divided between the market participants, ECB, and other stakeholders.
Thank you.
Yes, in the case of Lithuania, we actually tried to proactively engage different stakeholders. First of all, we have just concluded our payments market strategy in Lithuania, and we asked different stakeholders what are their views, how our market should be developed. And at the same time, we use different events, meetings with business associations, actually to talk already about digital euro and about different opportunities. So regarding citizens, what citizens in Lithuania are mostly interested in is offline payment possibility. This is what I would say is the most important thing for us. Of course, there are other options, emergency switching between payment service providers, also other issues. But offline payment opportunity is, I would say, the key. The second question, what I'm hearing from ordinary citizens is when? So when are we going to have the digital euro? Regrettably, at the moment, it's very difficult to say the final date, and we need that. We need predictability. Now, when it comes to retailers are also interested in the final date, when we should prepare, but they are mostly interested in cost, I would say. They're trying to compare the fees that they need to pay for using the existing card schemes. Of course, there are a lot of fintech solutions, fintech options, so they are comparing, is it going to be better for our businesses or not? What would be opportunities? So they are in general interested. Now, when it comes to the financial sector, I would also differentiate between different groups. Traditional commercial banks. The main question is how much it will cost us to adapt. When we are talking with fintech sector players, and there are a number also from Lithuania in this hall, I see more curiosity and, more thinking about opportunities, what opportunities could be there, how we could integrate our services, and so on. So different stakeholders, a lot of questions, but I think the general interest is to move forward and probably faster than slower.
Thank you. So maybe just to recap, what we've heard so far is that there's a lot of ongoing work. Some of the main issues that we are still tackling is on the compensation model, on the privacy. We heard that there's more progress on the holding limits as well, but also from the stakeholder side, it very much feeds into these outstanding issues as well around offline capabilities, privacy, and also compensation for the industry. And maybe if we then zoom a bit out and how the national EU level perspectives interact with the technical preparations here. So maybe, Evelien, from your point of view, how is this project being designed so it works with the existing infrastructure? We heard from the previous fireside chat that this should work in parallel with everything else as well. So from the ECB side, what are you doing to ensure that it's working with the rest of the market here?
So most of that work is done in the Rulebook Development Group, where we work with all the stakeholders. Important to know, starting point there is that we look to find the most cost-efficient way to implement the digital euro. But we also need to make sure that we achieve the goals of the digital euro. So we need to find a balance between what can be reused and what we need to invent on offline. It's rather new technology. It's really something that's currently not there. So there we really need to find a way. And actually in the last 2 years, we have done a lot of work also in the sourcing to feel confident that we can deliver and it can be done. But in the development, we look for reusing existing standards, but also looking to how current infrastructures could be reused for the digital euro. But we do that with a couple of things in mind. So, for example, privacy, which has been mentioned quite a lot. So the offline in itself is very cash-like because you hold your digital euros on your devices. And if you do a transaction between devices, nobody can see that. So in the design, it's I would say, as private and as close to cash as we can get. For offline, it's slightly different for what was mentioned also for AML and CFT reasons, anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist findings. And there, so the banks will need to do what they currently do, but then before the transaction goes to the euro system, it will be anonymized. So that means that in our systems, we will not be able, we don't even have the information to connect a transaction to a private individual. So I think that is very important. So all in all, we do see, and then also I want to make a link to the topic on cost. With this focus on reusing standards where possible, but also allowing current infrastructures to include the digital euro, we believe that the cost could be minimized, I would say, in the sense that, of course, there needs to be done investment, but we really try to look for a way to do it as cost efficient, not only for the euro system, but also for market participants. And that's one of the reasons there are some estimates on cost going around, where we do believe that, for example, synergy effects have not been very well taken into consideration. So we pay a lot of attention to do this, and to do this together with the market, where we have the experts to make sure that we put something there that is as efficient, but then also as robust as possible.
Thank you very much. I think that's very clear, but that also leads us into the political and legislative process. So with all these ongoing preparations, all this work with market participants, from the regulatory side, at least from the legislative side, how do you take these preparations into consideration when you are preparing the regulation? And I think maybe this is more a question for you, Kadri, and Virginijus as well. So how it is being merged in practice?
Yeah, thank you. Maybe first it's important to mention that the ECB would decide on whether to introduce the digital euro only after the Council and the Parliament have adopted the enabling legislative framework. And also to remind what the overarching aim of the legal framework is. And it's to lay down the EU legislation necessary to regulate the establishment of the retail digital euro, and as also mentioned today, as a complement to cash and also private sector solutions. And also to regulate the essential elements, so the basic principles of the digital euro. And the second, so overarching aim is to address the single market dimension of the digital euro by providing for the conditions under which payment service providers outside the euro area may provide digital euro services. In our region, we see it also an important topic because Nordic Baltic market is very integrated. And the ECB has been engaging closely with the EU Council and the Eurogroup on major design issues and the aspects of the digital euro that are relevant for the EU policy more broadly. The EU Council, from the other hand, seeks to ensure through the legal framework and high-level principles that the policy perspective and expectations to the digital euro are considered in the rulebook and digital euro design. Therefore, the ECB has, with advice and technical expertise, always been part of the Council negotiations, and it has been very, very useful. From the Council perspective, in my understanding, and also in Estonia, it's key that the digital euro is introduced in a way that makes it an innovative and attractive means of payment and ensures the resilience of payment services in exceptional circumstances, as also mentioned several times today. And this could provide real added value compared to current payment solutions, largely dependent on service providers outside Europe. In the event of failures and considering the context of digitalized societies, and one example is Estonia, of course, we should not necessarily revert to cash if exceptional circumstances occurs. And also, as Mr. Cipollone stated already today, given our objective to promote the wide use of the digital euro in normal times, it's also natural that the people expect that the digital euro ecosystem is functioning also to a reasonable extent in exceptional circumstances. I think those elements are key importance in the interlinkages, in the negotiations.
Thank you, Kadri. And Virginijus, I think the same question to you. How is the European Parliament taking the ECB preparations into consideration here?
So I think the key milestone was, of course, the rule book, which gave a lot of clarity, which I think what is extremely important signal that there is a flexibility there as regards the involving legal framework. But at the end of the day, of course, we'll have negotiations. The legal framework has to be clear as regards the implementation. But then the most important thing is the user experience. By user, I mean from a citizen who will use it to the fintech, payment service providers, and etc. So I think the ECB already started to work with the stakeholders, and that gives a good understanding, which of course will inevitably fit into the legal framework. Legal framework, I think, will address, of course, the most important issues. As I've said, there are a lot of alignment, but as regards the data, the privacy issues, and so on. But at the end of the day, what we truly want to achieve, I think, is ensure that we building up Europe's strategic autonomy, and this is one of the ways, making us less dependable on Visa and MasterCard. With the significant increase of e-commerce, you also have a significant increase of scam. I'm also a shadow rapporteur on PSD directive, and one of the main Parliament concerns is of course prevention of fraud. And here is a great tool, I think, especially with the release of payment when your goods arrived. So I think extremely important is the operational part. So the rule book, which is released by ECB, gives us a great glimpse into it, which we also can then apply as regards the interinstitutional negotiations.
Thank you. And I think this also shows that it's very important that the two tracks are very much aligned. And maybe looking ahead, Marius, what do you see from the national point of view and as the main opportunities for the digital euro to strengthen payments and support users? And I think maybe that's also a bit touching upon what Virginijus just said with strategic autonomy and so on.
After two excellent keynotes and a very interesting fireside chat, probably it's impossible to add something in addition about opportunities. But I would like to stress the resilience part. I think this is the key thing here. And if I could ask, the audience, who has never faced any issues when paying with current regular cards? Sometimes you are trying to pay in a supermarket, in a cafe, and there is no connectivity suddenly. The retailer asks you, to wait for a while, to return after a while. Then suddenly you receive a question, maybe you can pay by cash if you have that. So there are such issues, and they are daily issues, not to mention blackouts, what we had in the Iberian Peninsula, not to mention severe weather events, when suddenly your mobile phones, stop working. For it may be a second, a minute, but this is the reality. And not to think about sabotage, activities that could happen. When Russia invaded Ukraine in Lithuania, the demand for cash increased by times, suddenly. And we needed, 3 days to adapt. The commercial banks, the central banks, we actually, put aside all the rules, and we basically worked together 24/7, to meet the demand, of citizens. So the resilience is of key. If you had money in your account, in your digital wallet, besides cash, you will have more opportunities. And this is, I think, the key thing, which is at the moment very important for all Baltic societies, but not also in the Baltic countries. One additional thing, I have recently had conversations with traditional, card schemes, Visa and MasterCard. And sometimes, you're hearing between lines that, the digital euro is something against them. No. If you have one data center, and in order to increase resilience, you decide to hold your data in the second and third one. So are you doing something against the first data center? So I don't buy that argument. It's about, resilience of the system. If something happens, at least, let it be a second, with one part of the system, suddenly, another one, starts operating, and that's it. So the digital euro could significantly increase resilience of our payment systems in Europe.
Thank you, Marius. And here your point of view on the Visa MasterCard discussion. I think Virginijus, you also touched upon that. But maybe Miķelis, you have maybe a quite unique point of view, since that you are maybe on ground and closer to maybe also other stakeholders. So from your point of view, from Brussels, do you sense that stakeholders are already beginning to prepare, or are they still in the wait and see mode? Because I think we've heard that the Visa and MasterCard obviously have opinions on this, but have you heard anything else? Are you sensing anything else on ground?
I would say for sure they are involved. Maybe with preparation, we don't see here so much practical implementation because it's not there yet. But they are preparing in two ways, I would say. One is the ones who are not really willing to change something. They are past the if question now. They are challenging some aspects of it, but that's not bad. I think it should be able to answer all the questions, to have no doubts about why we need it and how we will implement it. But then again, we have also some market participants who are really interested in. As we heard that there is an interest from them. They are looking how they would like to implement it, what benefits they will have. We have interest from merchants who are looking forward to lower costs. So they are involved in various aspects. But I think the challenge then is for policymakers to put everything together afterwards, all those interests and positions, so the end result is fit for purpose, so that we don't have we don't create a burden like we have done sometimes in the past, that we have some tools or regulations that are not seen as very helpful, although they might be, but it's just the way how they were implemented. But I believe that we will be able to do it so that we have some great resilience tool plus innovation enable.
Thank you very much. And I think that feeds nicely into the next part of this discussion, which I would like to structure as a more open discussions or open question, and it's more regarding market readiness and the momentum. So as we've heard today, there's a lot of ongoing work on the legislative side. There's a lot of good work on the technical preparations, but also stakeholder engagement as well. All these things that you've mentioned today, which signal should this send to the market? I think Miķelis, you mentioned that some stakeholders are still asking the question of if. Some would argue it's more a question of when. So I think an open question for all of you, what signals should all of this send to the market at this point?
Shall I start?
Please.
Okay. So I do think that the progress that has to be made in the legislative process, and that has been nicely explained, do show that it's becoming very concrete now. So with the council putting their position by the end of the year, with your help, and also indeed the parliament, where the rapporteur has said that he will start issuing his report in October, hoping to finalize then end of April. We do see that the legislative process comes to an end, and I think with that we can be hopeful that in 2026 there is a legislation. As said, the ECB will not do any announcement on issuance or take a decision on issuance before this has been done, but afterwards you can expect that we would want to go forward. And with the preparations we have done in this phase, we are ready actually to go on the rule book as said before. Of course, it has flexibility for the final regulation. That's why it's not the final rule book. We will make sure that it's fully in line with the legislation once it has been adopted. But we call it a 0.9 version, so we have done a lot of work together with all the stakeholders. And I forgot to mention that also in this group, the legislator, both the Commission, the Parliament and the Council are observers of the work that we do there. So we really try to involve all stakeholders. So in that sense, I think the work, everything we have published, including the rulebook, could help all parties to start preparing on thinking, okay, what would come ahead of us. What I do hope that we will see more and more, and we see it on the merchant side, as was in the event that was already mentioned by the Commissioner last week. We see that the merchants are in general very positive on the digital euro. They have a couple of attention points, but they stand ready to go. And I do hope that also on the payment service providers, they in general will embrace this as an opportunity. We clearly see this as an opportunity. We see this as an additional choice which adds to resilience. It brings the privacy that cash has also to a digital age. But it also can provide a platform for innovation. We published a report, Piero mentioned that already earlier. And last but not least, with the standards that we have, we truly believe that the instant payments rollout that has been, well, is almost finalized based on the legislation, with the infrastructure of the digital euro and the standards for the front end will also be a boost for those solutions. So yeah, that's my expectations and hope for the future.
Yeah. Any other perspectives?
I can be maybe very short. I think it's already mentioned, and I fully agree, that the certainty to the market and to the ECB is a key at the moment. It's important from the legislator perspective to give the certainty by agreeing on a legal framework. This will be already a substantial step forward and will increase certainty and gradually advance to addressing the vulnerabilities that we face in Europe, be it due to the dependencies of third country infrastructures or the security environment.
Well, answering your main question, what sort of signal it sends to market, I think extremely positive signal, very clear. Even returning to Visa and MasterCard question, I think it brings, Digital Euro brings a very healthy competition. Just last week I had a meeting with one of the merchants who showed me the charges Visa and MasterCard does on them, and the rules are changing every year. The charge is super unclear why and how it's charged, so I think merchants are of course going to welcome it. During the process of legal framework that the questions are raised, that's also I think absolutely normal, and as I said, I really appreciate ECB's work here, especially on the rule book, which show that it's a living document, that it's not set in stone, and it's a living document with the flexibilities looking at, at the end of the day, providing instrument which will be inclusive across the Eurozone, which is going to work, again, taking into the consideration geopolitical situation. So, as I said, online, offline, and most important in times of disruption. So therefore, I think it is extremely positive signal to the market. On top of that, coming from Lithuania, which is a good hub for fintech, I think also gives a tremendous opportunity for the innovation for our European fintechs to scale up their products.
Any other?
I would like to add what I mentioned before, the problem that the division of roles is not certain, and this is something that should go out with a clear message who will be responsible for what.
And if I could add a little bit, at least in the beginning of summer, I think we had more doubts. At least I felt personally more doubts. At the moment, I feel the momentum that we are there to have an agreement. From what I'm hearing, from the Council, from what we're hearing from the Parliament. So this is the momentum either to go forward or, to lose this opportunity. But we can't, lose it.
So I think there's common grounds here on that this is a very strong signal to the market, it's a positive signal to the market, it's creating certainty, but there's still some outstanding issues in terms of division of roles that we will have to figure out as well. So I think we are close. We're getting close to the end of the panel. Before opening the floor for a Q&A, I would maybe like to try to have you, each of you, give a closing remark, very brief, on what is the single most important milestone or challenge for the Digital Euro for the next year or two. If you can briefly try to, from your point of view, try to give us a brief answer on that.
Yeah, I think I can only echo what was said before. The most important thing is to get certainty on the legislation, which will then also give the certainty on the outstanding question and the roles and the divisions. So getting this done would be important.
Yeah, from my side, I would also stress again the responsibility of the public sector to adapt and take measures in a changing environment, so be it from the global perspective or security. And if we're already doing something from the public perspective, there must be a clear qualitative added value that would bring real benefits to payment service users and to companies, banks, and other intermediaries that benefit from the more sustainable use of European resources then.
I think what markets need, they need predictability. So we just need an agreement with all technicalities, and then we need to freeze it, to guarantee that predictability and for everyone to prepare.
For Parliament's role now, of course, key is the legal framework. So we need to finalize a process on the legal framework that would be clear, that would be fundamental for then successive rollout of the instrument. So working together with the Commission, Council, with the ECB's extremely important role, I think that's absolutely key.
I can just agree that it's important to finalize, but it's not only important to finalize, but it's also important to create the regulation so that it's future-proof. It will be, as we call it, a rails for market infrastructure. It will be there for a long time, so it's really important to do it right. We have spent a lot of time on this, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Thank you. So a future-proof, certain, predictable legal framework that could provide some added value and security as well is what I hear as the most important milestones for the next year or two. Well, thank you very much, and I think we have some time for a question or two. I see a hand already over there, so I'm sure some colleagues have a mic already.
Thank you. Riho Terras, European Parliament. I'm very happy about your optimism. Full of optimism. Everybody is very optimistic. Don't want to spoil the party, but I had an experience with the EIDAS, which is the electronic identification. I was shadow rapporteur and spent, well, hundreds of hours and more than 3 years on getting something out of it, and we did not succeed. So actually I have a question to Mr. Sinkevičius. Where do you draw your optimism? Because I know that this file is already stuck in the European Parliament for 2 years, and we are starting now from the scratch. So I am very much in support of Digital Euro, but I'm not that optimistic. So my question is, where do you draw your optimism from? Thank you.
Okay, so your support and me already makes 2 of us. But to be honest, I think the new rapporteur is appointed now. From what I heard, he is quite eager to go ahead. Legislative process is always complicated in the EU. We know that extremely well. But, well, I think the geopolitical circumstances gave an additional boost to this file. And if we want to increase Europe's strategic autonomy and lessen dependence, it's not only military and energy, but payment system is extremely important too. And as we could see from Marius' example, as well from the other examples, it's a critical moment. So therefore, I think it's extremely important that Parliament would play a role as a catalyst of this change. This is a file which you can explain to citizens back in Latvia, back in Spain, or in Greece. So therefore, I think we can definitely try to advance. Of course, a lot will depend also on the Council roles, how much they are going to be pushing this file forward, because the presidency of the Council, if it really takes it as a priority, it can do a significant job. So therefore, I think now with the new mandate, we have plenty of time, and I think the momentum is definitely there.
Thank you. I don't know if we have other questions. I think that maybe most of the room agrees. I see a hand in the back.
Founder of PSP. My question is, the instant payment was mentioned several times today, and WOP is stepping power in coming few days. Basically, the instant payment which was executed by 1 second is now, the time frame will change, like because of additional technical issue, like 7 seconds or so. But the question is, if the digital euro, when it will be launched, and from the day one as a offline system as well, will it replace instant payment in one day, and instant payment solution is today temporary until will be launched the digital euro.
So will the digital euro replace instant payments?
Maybe I can answer from my side. Well, the short answer is no. The first thing is that instant payments has a broader application than, say, retail payments at a point of sale somewhere. And it's an infrastructure that transports commercial bank money, and the digital euro will transport central bank money. So in that sense, I think it's good that both of them are there. And actually, we believe, and it was said also in the panel earlier, that it's good that there is choice and that there's sufficient competition, and that actually the competition is more European than it currently is in Europe. So with what we see is that instant payment-based solutions at the point of interaction actually have problems to arise actually and to come to life. And with the standards of the digital euro, this would be further facilitated with this shared standard. So long story short, no, I don't think that it will compete with the instant payment and make it useless. Actually, I think it will enrich it and make it stronger.
Thank you. I think we're almost out of time. So unless we have a quick question? No. Good. So on that note, I would like to thank you all for your in my opinion, very valuable insights. And I would like to ask the audience in helping me thanking the panelists